Okay, so imagine this. A song, a really famous song, a notorious cult leader, a band, and this secret they kept for, like, 14 years. Today, we're doing a deep dive into a pretty curious case, the band phase and their newly released cover of Helter Skelter.
Right, and it's more than just, another cover version. The story behind why they waited so long, over a decade, and what finally pushed them to release it. That's where it gets really interesting, and frankly, a bit chilling, too.
Exactly. So our mission today is really to unpack all of that. We want to pull out the key insights from this whole narrative, help you understand these surprising links between music, true crime, a big one here, and even social commentary.
Yeah, we'll look at why bands do covers generally, then dive into the original Beatles track, Helter Skelter, which has its own history.
Yeah.
And of course, that infamous connection to Charles Manson.
Uh-huh. And then how Phase, this specific band, kind of used that really dark history to talk about something important today, like mental health. Our sources for this are pretty direct. We've got an archive post from Phase themselves, which is really candid about their whole journey.
And we're also using Genius lyrics for some background on the song and its, let's say, controversial past.
Okay, so to really get why Phase did what they did, maybe we should start with cover songs in general. Why do bands even do them? It's not always just about paying tribute, is it?
No, not at all. I mean, Faze actually talks about this. They say covers can be strategic. They give first-time listeners a sort of familiar reference point. That's their phrase.
Ah, okay. So it helps listeners figure out like where the band fits in the, huge music scene we have now.
Exactly. It helps people place us, as they put it. It's kind of like the way old folk songs worked, maybe. Think about Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah. So many people have covered it. It almost belongs to everyone now, right? It's about the story, the tradition.
That makes sense. Like it becomes part of the public domain almost.
Yeah, in a way. And it can be really strategic for artists starting out, or even established ones trying something new. You look at people like Marilyn Manson, the Rolling Stones, their early stuff had loads of covers. Jimi Hendrix, The Animals.
Right.
Covers helped launch them, partly because people already knew the songs, it resonated, and then they could introduce their own original music.
But it's not always so straightforward. You mentioned a darker side.
Well, yeah. There have definitely been cases, bands like Metallica, Led Zeppelin, especially early on, they were accused, maybe rightly, of basically taking songs by European artists and passing them off as their own in gigs. So, yeah, appropriation is sometimes part of that story, too.
That line between tribute and taking, it can get blurry.
Definitely.
Okay, so speaking of influence in covers, that brings us straight to the Beatles and the original Helter Skelter.
I mean, the Beatles' impact was just immense, wasn't it? Pushing boundaries, basically inventing youth culture in a lot of ways, making rock music global. Building on what people like Buddy Holly and Elvis started,
Yeah.
They took it somewhere else entirely.
And fun fact, they started out as a cover band themselves. The Quarrymen, then the Silver Beatles.
That's right, many bands do.
And Phase, the band we're focusing on, they've clearly got a thing for the Beatles. They've covered other songs before, like I Am the Walrus, I Want You, She's So Heavy. Strawberry Fields Forever.
Yeah, they have. But Helter Skelter is kind of a different beast, isn't it? It's often called, the first heavy metal song, or at least one of the first. It was incredibly heavy for its time.
Right. And McCartney had a specific reason for that, didn't he? Something about The Who.
Exactly. Paul McCartney apparently read an interview where Pete Townsend described their song I Can See for Miles as the loudest, rawest, dirtiest thing The Who had ever recorded. And McCartney is basically like, hold my beer. He wanted to top that, make something even louder and more chaotic.
And he did. I mean, the energy in that track is still pretty intense.
Totally. And you see that lasting power in all the bands who've covered it since. Susie and the Banshees, Mötley Crüe, Aerosmith, U2, Oasis, Rob Zombie.
Marilyn Manson, interestingly, given the later connections.
Right. And even McCartney himself still plays it live pretty often. It hasn't lost its edge.
Okay, so we've got this incredibly intense boundary-pushing song. Now let's get back to Phase's version and this 14-year gap. This is where the story gets really wild.
It really does.
So they recorded the instrumental track, right? But no vocals, and then they just shelved it for 14 years.
Yeah. And the story behind why dates back to the MySpace era, which feels like ancient history now.
Yeah. They call it the romantic for the alternative counterculture MySpace era. They were approached by this woman, they call her Daisy, from the U.S. Bible Belt.
Right, and she was working on a documentary about Charles Manson, of all people. An Australian director was involved.
And get this, apparently Phase's other music was played for Manson while he was in prison.
I know. And the story goes he apparently loved our material.
Unbelievable. And Daisy even suggested wearing a Phase t-shirt when she interviewed Manson.
Yeah, that was the proposal. Talk about bizarre product placement.
So, I mean, most bands might jump at that kind of, well, notoriety maybe, but Phase didn't.
No, they pulled back. And you can see why, can't you? They said they felt there was some questionable Manson fandom coming from the other people involved in the documentary.
Ah, okay. So they weren't sure if the documentary was going to be critical or if it might end up, like, glorifying him.
Exactly. They were uncertain about the light the documentary would portray Manson in, and they decided ethically they didn't want to be associated with it if it leaned that way.
That makes sense. A pretty principled stand, actually.
Yeah, and because of that decision, the Helter Skelter track just sat there unfinished until, well, very recently.
Which highlights just how carefully they were thinking about this even back then.
Definitely.
So for anyone listening who maybe doesn't know the full Manson-Helter Skelter connection, let's just quickly recap that because it's crucial.
Yeah, it's pretty grim.
Manson himself, before the cult and the murders, was actually a musician, or trying to be.
Right, a frustrated one. He wrote a song the Beach Boys actually recorded. It was originally called Cease to Exist.
They renamed it Never Learn Not to Love.
Yeah, and people like Neil Young apparently saw some musical talent there early on.
But then, well, things took a very dark turn. He used LSD, manipulation.
To radicalize his followers, his so-called family.
Yeah.
Mostly young, vulnerable women, often drawn to that sort of hippie counterculture idea, but he twisted it.
And this is where Helter Skelter, the song, gets pulled into his delusion, right?
In a truly horrifying way, yes.
Yeah.
Manson developed this bizarre belief. He thought the Beatles were the four horsemen of the apocalypse from the Bible's Book of Revelation.
Serious.
Yes, and he decided that their song Helter Skelter was a coded message to him, instructing him to start an apocalyptic race war.
Which is just completely insane. The lyrics are about an amusement park slide.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, Helter Skelter is a fairground ride in the UK. It has absolutely nothing to do with race war or killing people, no matter how you try to twist the words. It's pure delusion.
But he acted on it. The murders. They were linked to this delusion.
Yes, and a twisted sense of revenge. He'd been rejected by a record producer, Terry Melcher, who used to live in a house on Cielo Drive in Los Angeles. By 1969, Melcher had moved out, and the house was rented by director Roman Polanski and his wife, the actress Sharon Tate.
Who was heavily pregnant at the time.
Right. Manson, apparently nursing this grudge against Melcher and the establishment, directed members of his family to go to that house, Melcher's old house, and kill everyone inside.
Just horrific.
Truly. They brutally murdered Sharon Tate and 4 other people there, and afterwards, this is the direct link, they used the victims' blood to write messages, things like death to pigs and, crucially, Helter Skelter. They even misspelled it on the walls and doors.
God, that's chilling.
Yeah.
Just absolutely chilling how a song could be so terribly misinterpreted and tied to such violence.
It really is.
And Phase, the band, they mentioned finding it puzzling how fascinated people are by this kind of darkness.
Yeah, they said it was really puzzling. And they made the point that this was before the whole Netflix true crime boom, before it became such a huge genre.
That's true. That whole fascination with serial killers and cults seems even more intense now.
It does. And psychologists have theories about why, of course. There's a quote from Dean Fido, a psychology lecturer, suggesting we crave excitement, good or bad.
Okay.
And mixing that desire with, solving a puzzle, the why-do-nit of true crime, gives us the sort of adrenaline rush, but from a safe distance.
Like a controlled thrill.
Kind of.
Yeah.
And he also suggests maybe people are trying to understand the potential for darkness within themselves, using these really extreme cases as a sort of yardstick. I'm not that bad.
Interesting. So Phase initially felt getting involved with the man's doc would be in poor taste. Maybe just for shock value.
Right. That was their initial feeling, controversial shock value. But over the years, their thinking changed. Well, now, after all this time, they felt releasing the song could actually be constructive. They said it could serve as a powerful way to draw attention to mental health conditions.
Ah, okay. So flipping the narrative, using the darkness to shed light on something else.
Exactly. They list things like substance abuse, trauma, personality disorders, psychosis, delusions, paranoia. Conditions they see reflected, perhaps, in the Manson story itself. Things that are manageable, they argue, but can become incredibly dangerous if they're not addressed properly.
That's a really thoughtful way to reframe it.
Yeah, and they even float this unpopular opinion, as they call it. that maybe failed, frustrated artists. They mentioned Manson. But also fascists like Hitler and Michelle Rostand from that documentary. Holy hell, maybe if they'd had a proper outlet, a platform for their art.
Your manic energy, as Faze puts it.
Right. Maybe that energy could have been channeled into something therapeutic, creative, instead of destructive. It's a provocative idea.
It really is. And it makes you think about other artists who've engaged with the Manson story, sometimes in ways people found problematic.
Definitely. It's a recurring theme.
Like Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails renting the Cielo Drive house where the murders happened.
Yeah, and naming his studio there Le Pig, which was a direct reference to one of the messages written in blood. Sharon Tate's sister called him out publicly for it.
Right, and then Marilyn Manson, obviously taking the name, and recording music in that same house with Reznor.
And even the band Kasabian, named after Linda Kasabian, who was part of Manson's group but became a key witness against them.
It's like this story keeps drawing artists in, but the line between exploration and exploitation is always debated, isn't it?
Always. It's very tricky territory.
So what happened with that documentary Faze almost got involved with?
Oh, right. Well, according to the band's post, a teaser trailer did come out on YouTube eventually, but the full film never got an actual distribution. It kind of fizzled out.
Interesting.
And there's one last weird little anecdote they shared. A member of the band was telling their tour manager this whole Manson connection story about why the track was shelved. And apparently, Charles Manson died the very next day.
Whoa. Seriously?
Well, the band member admits the timing might be slightly off, like maybe it was the day after that, but at the time it felt incredibly strange, quite hair-raising, they said.
I bet. Like some kind of weird cosmic punctuation mark on the whole thing.
Yeah, almost like the universe saying, okay, you can close that chapter now.
So finally, after 14 years, the Manson documentary fading away, Manson himself dead, Faze decided it was time.
Exactly. Their cover of Helter Skelter was finally mixed, mastered, and repurposed, they say, by Mark Chudnovsky with blessings from Alex Arnautoglu.
And the lyrics for their version are out there now, too. The journey is complete.
The 14-year journey, yeah.
So wrapping this up, we've gone from a Beatles classic to a cult leader's horrific delusion to a band's long-held secret, and finally to this re-release framed around mental health awareness. It's quite a path.
It really is. It shows how powerfully art can be misinterpreted, weaponized even, but also, maybe, how it can be reclaimed. How revisiting something dark but with a different intention, a new lens, can shift its meaning.
Yeah, turning it from just shock value into potentially a tool for discussion, for commentary.
It's a reminder that understanding even these really dark parts of history or culture might help us get a better handle on things happening now. Use that knowledge for awareness.
Definitely. So here's something to maybe leave you thinking about. Can we really revisit these controversial histories, these dark figures and events, through art or discussion, and successfully use them to address current issues like mental health? Or does that inherent public fascination with the darkness, the thing Faze themselves noted, always carry a risk? The risk of accidentally glorifying or sensationalizing, even when the intention is good.
That's the core tension, isn't it?
Yeah. What really stands out to you after hearing this whole layered story? Lots to unpack there.